Oh my gosh, I'm live. You know, these tend to get more views on the VOD, so I like to try to start it like a podcast. I'll start responding to people as they come in and have stuff to say, but I every single time I make a new video of any sort, whether it's a live stream, a regular edited video, an unscripted video, no matter what it is, someone is going to be seeing it as the first piece of content from me that they've seen in like years. I don't know why. I don't know how YouTube picks who it shows your content to, because there's a core audience, and not just like of me, but of YouTube in general. There's like a core base of people who just watch everything that they're subscribed to, like people who are just really into YouTube, who are really getting awfully gray. Oh yeah, it's a lot easier to tell in the daylight. It's usually not so obvious, but I'm very gray on the sides in particular. That's what happens when you decide to be a witch. But yeah, every time I make a video or live stream or whatever, there's going to be some people who guaranteed see it because they guaranteed see everything, absolutely everything. And then on top of that, YouTube seems to pick like a random smattering of other people to show the video to, and based on how many of those people watch it seems to be then how it decides to like continue spreading it. But like there's always some of those people who like haven't been shown a video in forever, and I'll get these comments that are like, I haven't had a video from you up here in 5 years, like I had no idea you were still making videos. I had no idea anything that's been going on with you at all in the last 5 years. So basically, like, if the algorithm's not serving you consistently, it is serving you in the most random fucking spattering imaginable. Like, for instance, Anonymous, who's here in the chat, I know YouTube sends you my stuff because you'll always click on it and I always see your name there. So it's like, it's wild that YouTube will always send it to you, but then there's somebody else who'll be getting this as their first live stream in years from me, and they're just like, what the fuck is going on? What is this about? When did you move back to Virginia? Whatever part of the story they're totally left behind on. I want to talk a little bit about that today, because, I get a lot of negative comments, and I don't take all of them seriously. I only really listen to comments that I know they're right. Sometimes I see what they're saying and I'm like, you've touched on something here. A lot of the times they come to the conclusion the wrong way. Like they've only got bits and pieces of good reasoning, but ultimately they've hit on something true. And recently I had some comments from somebody who was saying, like, the real problem with your content over the last 5 years is the lack of a clear story. That before that point, there was a clear story going on, and then that story gradually got muddied. And I'm inclined to agree with this because my career, it's been very rocky over the last like 6 or 7 years. But there's definitely a marked trend in like the less available I am, like not just in the sense of like being reachable or making content, but being like emotionally available, or like making my story, my personal self available through the content. There is a sense of loss, and it's a difficult thing to rectify, because to me, like managing a life and career balance is basically something I was failing at the time when my career was the most successful. My life was subsumed by my career. I think that's the right way to use that word. We'll say consumed. My life was consumed by my career. And when I started trying to create a separation between those things, then that made it so I now have to make decisions about what parts of my life are my career, or what parts of my career are my life. And that became really difficult because for a long time they were just kind of indistinguishable. I just had nothing else going on, you know? My life was very boring, so I spent all my time on the internet either doing YouTube or watching YouTube or interacting with the audience of YouTube, just being very immersed in my career until the point that, you know, I started to lose track of my like sense of person because you know, up until being an internet creator, like, there were many facets of myself that I might exhibit, either whether it be in private or around different types of people, that were just kind of slowly eroding away and disappearing as I became only, you know, like, if basically what I'm trying to say is, if I'm in character all the time, then I just end up being that character. Like, that just is who I am if I'm always playing that character. And that's what it started to feel like. And you can hear that in, you know, my whole album Gay and Dead that I made pretty much right at the height of my popularity. It's my most popular album because it was the one that, you know, hit when I was hitting the hardest and my narrative was the most interesting to people. But what that narrative essentially was is like about the erosion of the sense of self in the you know, the hyper information age of the internet, where your identity is constantly being bombarded with suggestions from all sides, and like, you know, how do you maintain a sense of self in that whirlwind of information? And when I was playing Digibro, I just wasn't maintaining a sense of self. I was just letting myself be consumed by the whirlwind of information, essentially. And so, you know, I made a dedicated effort, and it's kind of surreal for me when I go back through specifically my songs, because I usually write about exactly what I'm going through at that very moment. Sometimes that's more opaque and sometimes it's more oblique, but in the case of when I was moving out of my house in 2017, like, if you listen to the lyrics of Who the Fuck is Conrad, or the lyrics of you know, the first emotional anime raps, it's all basically about this feeling of like, I've lost touch with who I am and I need to go find it. You know, that's the basic premise of that era of my career, is like, you know, it's been fun and all doing this whole internet character, but like, this has wrung me dry. I've exhausted all of the things I can do within the parameters of this character. I feel like I've completed this character's story arc, you know, like, there's nowhere left for me to go as Digibro unless I was to evolve the character, and that's what I started trying to do. And I was just so fixated on making things work for me that I totally stopped even really trying to make it work for the audience, which is, you know, what became a big problem. And the first mistaken way that I went about trying to make it better for me was, well, I want to feel more artistically fulfilled, so I'll make the most big, difficult projects possible. And when I started working on big, difficult projects, I kind of disappeared. I wasn't really putting out content, and I took a huge blow. And then I came back, started putting out content relentlessly. I eventually recovered the amount of money I was making, but never really recovered the algorithmic damage. Like, it's weird, because if I look back on my career, I always have to break it down both by money and by clout, because they're very different measurements. I never did this correctly. I never leveraged my clout to make more money. So how much money I was making and how much clout I had sometimes have been inversely proportional. Sometimes, you know, like at the end of my Brony era, I switched gears to a more personal style, got about half as many viewers and twice as much Patreon money, you know? So I hate how windy it is up here. I gotta get down. I gotta lower myself down the mountain because it's too windy. I'm trying to talk real talk. But you know, that period where I came back, fiercely and put out tons of videos in like late 2018. I had a big hit video with the Deer Crunchyroll Stop one. But during that period of time, I was still like really trying to work on figuring out work-life balance. And I just kept trying to figure out like basically some kind of scheme that would allow me to do like, basically, the way I looked at it was I've overpromised my audience, you know, at the time. Was I've been putting out so much content and living no life that for me to have any kind of life, I need to slow down the content. How do I do that in a way that doesn't like leave the audience unimpressed? And I just kept trying to do too many different things, too many different ideas. Nothing was really clicking. You know, even stuff that some people liked, if it didn't click with enough people, I just moved on to another idea because I'm just trying to get the numbers to go up, you know? So switching gears so many times also burned a lot of people away where, you know, maybe they were excited about something and were hoping I was going to keep it going until it blows up and then it just kind of dies, you know? So I totally get why people were already kind of trying to parse what the hell was going on with me. And then when I started gender transition, I really sort of cut the stream off after a certain point. And like, there was still a period of time where I was doing like befriending the internet and like these very personal videos, but it was such a subject matter change. Like, you know, it still took a lot of adjustment. And once my relationship ended, I really I stopped having the same kind of trust that I had before in just like pouring information out into the world all the time, you know, like realizing, you know, that just it's not always a good idea to publicize every aspect of your life to such an extent that your life becomes like a cartoon, you know, becomes a TV drama. I mean, it can be fun at times, but, you know, I would have to have been emotionally ready and prepared for that to be what my life is going to be before it happened, you know? So it was kind of like I had to take a step back and ask myself, like, what am I trying to have my life look like? You know, there's a lot of ways I could make money, but at the cost of my sanity. And there's a lot of ways I can preserve my sanity but not make any money. So, you know, I'm trying to look for that sweet, sweet middle ground. And I do think this type of stream feels like that for me, but it does take more, it takes more emotional energy for me to do this than I would expect. I'm always expecting this to be something quick and easy, that I'm just gonna flip on the camera and start rambling. But I always end up sitting there thinking about it for like a long time. Like, do I really have something to talk about? You know, am I just gonna be kind of floundering? Is this gonna be like a video that people can actually go back and watch and it's still interesting even if you don't see it live? If you do see it live, will it be interesting? And of course, most importantly in my mind, to be honest, will I make any money doing it? Because at the end of the day, the best reason to do this type of content is that you can make money quicker than you can with other stuff. But it has to be something people would pay for, you know? I watch a lot of live streamed podcasts, particularly Biggest Problem in the Universe. It's one I'm a big fan of, and that show is very conceptual. It's very based around the idea that like it's going to be these two guys, it's going to be this time every week. There's a strict format to the show, and I think that makes it inviting in a way that like everyone knows there's a segment where the super chats get read. They know what to super chat about because there's like a meta, you know, there's a whole structure to the show that promotes this meta. And in my case, my channel has no meta. It's just a confusing clusterfuck. Until now, where We Watch Anime has a meta to it, where, you know, it's very clearly a new video every other Thursday, or I should say weekend. New video every other weekend about anime analysis, and then Manga Monday on Mondays. Did I miss a few Mondays already? Yes. But that's also because I still don't have a golden ticket yet. You know, I still don't know what work-life balance is going to be the most ideal towards both preserving sanity and making lots of money. I know with live streams, you only make money if you do a lot of it. You have to do it all the time. It helps to be on a specific schedule where people know there's a regularity and a rhythm to it. But like, more than that, it has to feel epic. It has to feel meaningful. You have to be steeped in it. It has to be immersive, you know? There needs to be a feeling that like, I have to contribute to this because I want to remember my part in it. I want to remember that this transpired, you know? Make it feel like more than sitting at your chair watching somebody else do their own life independently, you know? Make it feel more like a thing you were doing together. At least that's what I think the appeal of Super Chats is. I can't really say much because I don't do a lot of it. We have a Mount Trashmore in Iowa too. Sick. I think they're building a bigger one in Newport News. At the very least, there is a landfill in Newport News that is significantly larger than Mount Trashmore, but it looks like it is being turned into one like as they go. So I assume whenever they're done filling that land, then it'll turn into a big old public park like this. Chair, you're giving me too much credit. I'm in bed. That's funny. I'm up on Mount Trashmore. Up on top of it. You can see the skate park over there somewhere. No, that's not it. There we go. Big old half pipe. I wish it wasn't so windy always here though, because I like recording here, but it's always windy every time. Alright, let's see what chat's been talking about. Someone that happens on the web across it. Irony is impossible. There cannot be a persona. That's true. The wind is going boom into the mic. Let's try this way. Is that Windows XP background behind you? How do I deal with choice paralysis if that's even a problem for you? I tell you what, that's sort of a rant topic. So if there is a super chat asking that question, I will answer it. I've tried to be very strict that I will not go on random rants without getting paid for it. Because if you're good at something, you're not supposed to do it for free. That said, I go on free rants fucking constantly. But that's just because I love life. I have an endless vivacity for speaking. How come I didn't watch at least To Your Mal, Chameleon OVA from 1992? I don't know. I don't remember having heard of it. The second person asked if I was in a Windows XP background. I've been following you since nearly 10 years now, and I'm really glad to still have you around. Hope you achieve what you want in your life now. Thank you. I feel like, I mean, what is there to want in life except that every day is alright, you know? I cannot face that way, it's too windy. I gotta figure out where I'm going down this mountain. You know, I feel like I was saying, when I really didn't have any kind of life beyond doing internet work. Like, I enjoyed doing it, it's just that I didn't enjoy it being all I was doing. And the fact that nobody wanted to do it with me was also a big problem, where like, even when it comes to like the PCP, we never could gel on like doing a thing. Like the PCP podcast, for instance, was like, literally no one wanted it to be their main focus. Like, you know, Nate ended up kind of running it just because he had a quality standard he wanted it to live up to if it was going to be under his name, you know, if he was going to be involved with it, I should say. So, like, he did more of the management and editing early on, and then I was doing a lot of the editing early on because I just thought it was a good show and wanted it to be more popular. But, like, and once it started making money, other people started caring a little bit more about it. But, like, the group would only really do group projects when we all got together for it, and it was really difficult to organize, and like all of us just kind of wanted to be doing our own solo careers, you know, like we were all more invested in what we had going on than in trying to do something together. And so all the stuff that we did together was kind of half-hearted and half-baked, you know. And I think for me, I've just never been somebody who's done like a lot of collaboration, like not even in school. I kind of avoided all the collaborative projects and stuff, so I understand why I'm difficult to work with. And you know, like, so I think when my career was all I had, like my ideation was like, well, I'm gonna find people who will want to do my career with me. And like the closest I came was my ex, who, you know, made it seem as though their goal was essentially to have my career, but then constantly was fraught with imposter syndrome about it, you know, and so could never actually take up that role and be fully committed. So it was, again, kind of a lot of half-hearted, half-baked collaboration. And that's something I've really tried to avoid in my current relationship, because like Bert and I do creative stuff together, but it's never forced. It's never just like, here's what I would have done anyways, but now you're in it, you know. Which is, I understand why people considered that forced when I was doing it before. I didn't totally understand it back then, because from my perspective it was like, well, I think this has the potential to be better than me doing it by myself. It just needs enough time, you know. But there's not really a reason to fuck with a winning formula you've already got. That's just my foolishness of wanting to not have to do things by myself. And even still, I don't love doing things by myself, you know, like, I always prefer if I can make content with someone else, just because it's more fun. But there's not a lot of people, again, that I really like working with. In most contexts, I'm still much more invested in doing my own stuff and like figuring out what's going on with me first before I try to work with other people. So I think, you know, as I sort of fell out with the idea that, oh, I can still do my career all the time, I just got to find people to do it with, I came into like more the thought of like, my career is my thing. I should do my career and then have a life outside of that with other people, you know, instead of trying to tangle this all into a mess. I know this sounds like it's probably obvious, and plenty of people were telling me that this is what I should do all along the way, but you know, some lessons you got to learn the hard way when you really don't want to do anything by yourself. But like, because of the fact that now I get to do satisfying things with other people that have nothing to do with my career, I feel more like capable to do it by myself, you know. Like, I don't feel like, oh, I'm always alone. It's like, I'm only alone when I'm working, then I get to go back to, you know, being around people and having other shit to do. So I think that's a healthier life career balance that I've achieved. It's made me a happier person. It's why I can be out here now by myself streaming, and then after I'm done, I'll go home and hang out with Bert. So you know, that's the nice part about this lifestyle. The only problem is that because I am not doing my career as much as I used to be, I don't know how to make as much money as I used to make. And I'm sure the answer is like, well, I was working harder, not smarter back then. So I just gotta work smarter and less hard. But still gotta work really hard, you know. Still takes a lot of hard work making money on that there internet. We got 50 viewers right now. What is up, everybody? I don't know where you all came from or what you're all doing. What's the haps? What's the buzz? Tell me what's a-happening. Okay, get out of this windy area. Still trying to, I'm really plotting my path mostly based on avoiding people who are milling over this mountain and trails, you know. My voice, it really carries here on the wind. I've got a $10 super chat from ASE Presents, who says, the comics era has taken me a long time to launch, but you'll get to benefit from it soon. Clip. Hell yeah. Comics era we are in. Yeah, I mean, ASE Presents is the, how would I describe it? Purchaser of my script, my storyboard, that is going to be adapted into a full comic by Mint Salad. Very exciting. If anybody wants to know what it would be like if I wrote a comic and it was illustrated by my friend, porn star Mint Salad, fansly.com/titsmintsalad, or autisticboobs.com, I think is her new website. You know, look forward to Prickly. It's a what's the least descriptive thing I can say? I don't want to put images in people's heads, but at the very least, I would call it a sci-fi western. That's the very least, sci-fi western. Action sci-fi western. More of an action-oriented than a science-oriented, you know? She will forever known as the Star Wars Rage Girl. That's true. She is the most angry at Star Wars anyone has ever been. Certainly of her generation. And cup size. I don't think anyone in all those parameters has ever been so upset with the Star Wars franchise. She was almost equally upset with Madam Web, I think. I got another $5 from ASE Presents. I think Eminem is really empathetic towards Drake and is going to swing at K-Dot soon. Rant about how you think that would go down. Oh man. Wow, that would be interesting. I mean, so I guess first I have to ask, has Eminem never taken shots at Kendrick? Because I feel like Eminem's taking shots at fucking everybody. And I know he's not going to let people go around saying that Kendrick is the GOAT. I just think, like, you know, compared to him, I do not think that Eminem considers Kendrick to be a better rapper than himself, in part because Kendrick could not exist in part without Eminem. That's one of his influences, you know. He's, if anything, taking responsibility for Kendrick. So, if he felt like he was also responsible for taking him out, you know, maybe he would go for it. I think, so what's interesting about that proposition to me, right? Like, if I'm imagining all the hip-hop podcasts and shit that I watch, none of them would take M's side over Kendrick. But it would be really funny to see the schism it created in the white hip-hop community. Because, you know, white people love Kendrick Lamar. Obviously, white people love Eminem. So that would be the most interesting part, is to see how much it would divide white hip-hop fans. And I would love to see that being laughed at on all the podcasts that I watch. Because, like, I mean, realistically, no serious hip-hop fan considers Drake the GOAT, like, as a rapper. Nobody considers Drake, who cares about hip-hop, to be the greatest rapper of all time. Just not a chance. Plenty of people seriously think Kendrick Lamar is in consideration, and I don't even know if that's a majority. I don't know if he's the person who the most, I think Tupac is probably the person who the most people are going to tell you is the GOAT. You know, is the name I hear the most often in my phone. So, do I think Kendrick is automatically like the shoe-in greatest of all time? No. But when it comes to hip-hop heads, Kendrick and Eminem, I think, have almost exactly the same amount of sway in the conversation. But as Tech9 put it, he's better. He's black and he can say the N-word. So ultimately, that's why I think M would lose in the greater hip-hop consciousness. But the dispute between white fans would be so funny. They all gotta pick a side, you know. I would probably be on Kendrick's side. it's difficult because those are the two people who I consider the most, like, probably the most directly influential on me in terms of people who are in the GOAT conversation. Like, I probably wouldn't know how to rap if I didn't learn Eminem songs growing up in this, and I'm you know, there's other rappers, but fucking Real Slim Shady was like my baby book, as I said in the song Most. So like, I have to say, like, he has some sway, but I've never liked the whole Eminem album. I've just never been able to finish a whole album, enjoy every song on it. There's always a bunch of shit that I'm just like, nah. Kendrick Lamar, Mr. Morale is the only album that I've never like listened to all the way through in a go, and part of that's because it's so fucking long. But it does have, it's the only one that has songs that I'm like, nah, skip, you know, like routinely, like from the first listen. Every other album, you know, and I'm not even gonna act like I'm the biggest To Pimp a Butterfly fan. Like, half of that album is the greatest thing I've ever heard, and half of it I completely forget exists a lot of the time, you know. Not even that it's not great, just that it's not as imminently for me as everything on Good Kid, Mad City, most of what's on Damn. I know that's a controversial one too, but I like it. I'm gonna get quiet for a second as I pass this road and finish my drink. Starting to get flat. Tyler, Creator, has good songs. I mean, yeah, he does. That doesn't mean he's the greatest of all time or anything like that. But he does have, you know, he's got some good songs. I'm sure I could rant about Tyler if such a thing were to be desired. But so all I've got in my head right now is Kendrick Lamar. That's it. Really trying to read the chat, but it's hard to see because I got the sandstorm. Trying to head back to where I started, where it was less windy. Alright, now that I'm in the shade, I can look at my screen and read the chat. Oh, I totally missed the super chat from the Shaman. Rant free space, if not just a bit of monetization. Oh, thank you. I love when people just tell me, hey, keep doing it. That's the ultimate message, you know, like, hey, it doesn't matter, just keep doing it, because I like it. Whatever it is, you got it. Well, if it's a free space, I can just continue ranting about Kendrick versus Drake. Holy shit. Drake dropped this song last night. Kendrick has not responded to it yet, I assume because it was such a failure of lyrical content that he is simply allowing Drake to stew in it, unless I've missed a new drop while I've been fucking walking around. God knows, it happened last time I was streaming. If it happened, I'm not going to listen to it because that video got blocked in some countries and demonetized. But this new fucking Drake song, he says, like, okay, so the accusation is that he and his friends are pedophiles. And he says things like, if she's a teenager, I wouldn't look twice. And it's like, what the fuck? So you look once? What the fuck? What? What? What are you saying? Are you thinking about the words you're using right now? He said, he at one point in the song says that people in his camp were feeding Kendrick false information on purpose. But then also in the same song, says that the people who gave Kendrick the information are just like dumbasses. It can't be both. I mean, unless he's talking about two different, but he doesn't distinguish them. He's just like, oh yeah, the people you get information from, they don't know what they're talking about. And also, they're my people, and they gave you that information. And it's like, Kendrick's big accusation was like, you're a liar and a manipulator. And Drake's like, yeah, I lied and I manipulated you. It's like, dude, so much point the missed so much just fucking accidental doubling down and self-owning like I've never heard of in a rap battle before. It's crazy because I know there's people who are still gonna say that this beef is like close or tied up, or that Drake has like some good bits. I'll even say this, the fucked up part, that new Drake song I think is the best sounding song out of this whole entire competition. Like, it had an amazing beat, he sounded great on it, and when he first started up I was like, man, if he really fed information to Kendrick, that would be really embarrassing, you know, like if they really told him, if they really had somebody convincing him that Drake had a daughter, and then they sneakily, ooh, that was us actually, that would be embarrassing. But then the song kept going, and he says, like, he's tripping out on Kendrick taking the, quote, Epstein angle. Now, Epstein, Kendrick did not compare Drake to Epstein, he compared him to Weinstein. So for Drake to then call it the Epstein accusation is actually making it sound way worse. Like, Weinstein's accused of, like, being a creep to women directly. Epstein is accused of, like, kidnapping little girls and trading them to politicians. Like, a whole other scale of bad. So for Drake to invoke that out of nowhere, fucking bonkers. Totally bonkers. Biggest self-own in hip-hop rap battle history, as far as I know. I've never heard of somebody in such a position to do such a thing own themselves that badly. Pretty baffling. Seems like he wrote more of the bars on the recent track, and you can tell. I mean, yeah, and more of it is addressed directly at Kendrick, but it's a problem of Drake is in a defensive position because, like, what is he gonna accuse Kendrick of if Kendrick hasn't done anything, you know? Like, that's what makes it to people like me, it's like the hero finally slaying the fucking demon lord, you know? Like, that's the feeling of it. Is it's like, so I've only ever really done one sincere rap battle where this dude Asperger made a diss track about me, and so I made a response track called Asperger Gets Grilled. And in his track about me, there were a bunch of specific accusations because he knew vaguely who I was. I mean, a lot of them were just false or fucking weird, but like, I understood that he had heard these things from people and put them into his song. I then had to make a response, and like, all I could really do was bar him down on a technical level, and I only really, I made some references to his friends online who I knew better, but I didn't know the guy. There was no presence for him online. So like, even though ultimately I won this beef just because I was a better rapper, like, he had an advantage on me in that there was stuff to accuse me of. There was nothing for me to say about this guy I basically didn't know. So like, with Kendrick and Drake, it's like Drake's new song is basically him saying, nuh-uh, that stuff's not true that you said. But it's like, he can't bring up anything new about Kendrick because he doesn't know anything new about Kendrick. So it just feels like Kendrick hasn't even pulled out all his trump cards. Like, he has probably more accusations to make, and meanwhile Drake already is out of attack cards. You know, all he's got is defense. So kind of a sad position. All right, we got another super chat from ASE Presents with $5. Did you hear Ye's remix of Like That? That was 3 weeks ago, and all I know is K-Dot beats his wife, so I ain't never gonna stop. Clip with the Clippers. Amazing. I did not hear that Ye remix. I've kind of shut out Ye for the time being, mostly because I didn't like what I heard. That I didn't like that single from Vultures that everybody liked. I didn't get it. I mean, it's been a long time since Ye has really made something for me, and I don't really think he's trying to make something for me. You know, he's been, what the fuck is going on over there? he's been like pretty latched into, you know, trying to appeal to like white boys and conservatives and shit, and like, I don't know, it's just a lot of his image and what he's doing. It's just not, you know, I'm a JPEG Mafia Danny Brown fan. Like, it's to me a different world. And I think all those people, including myself, have a certain respect for Ye that can never be truly tarnished. But it's just not my lane, you know. Ye, there was a time where I thought Ye and I were more on a parallel, but I think he's done a lot of DMT since then and become some other people, you know, that I have more of a struggle to relate to. I would love to meet him though, actually. I think I would have an interesting conversation with Ye, more than most rappers. Like, more than rappers that I like more than him, you know? Somebody who I actually would be like, well, I have a lot of questions, you know? I would be like, I want to pick your brain. You know, I've had plenty of people express that sentiment towards me. There's not a lot of people I feel like I would get much out of trying to, you know, unless they happen, I like when I happen to be in the same place as somebody else and I happen to learn about them, you know? But that actual, like, interrogation, I'm gonna sit down with this person and find out what's going on with them. Ye is one of the only people that I know I would get something out of. But I'm sure there's hundreds of millions of people who feel that way, so it's probably never gonna happen for me. Didn't think you were gonna get problematic uncle at Thanksgiving dinner, Ye? Well, you know. I'm like the problematic element of my family, so that aspect of Ye doesn't bother me as much as just he's not fighting for my culture, you know? He's fighting for his culture that he's created, that he has embodied, and that he's art. Like, the way I look at it, like, Ye is a guy who has his kingdom, and that kingdom shrinks or grows in size, but there is a core, you know, there's a castle, a spiritual castle in Ye's heart condominium. Motherfucker lives out of a jacket. Like, I don't know. He's a different type of person. Alright, I found a peaceful spot. Yeah. Peaceful spot square in the middle of the mountain. That's the fucking tongue twister I was trying to get out. Peaceful spot square in the middle of the mountain. We are 13 songs deep in this war. It ain't a clean beef. No, it's not. The biggest power play Drake did was the name of the song. Yeah, I mean, Kendrick had to always know that he has been open for that, though, right? Like, if you're naming songs in a sequence, somebody can always just jump your sequence. If you were gonna do a fucking Hobson diss, you would probably just call it Ill Mind of number whatever, you know? But the problem is that The Heart Part 6 by Drake is terrible. And a lot of people have pointed out, if Kendrick makes The Heart Part 6 and just has a better The Heart Part 6, then, you know, he can ultimately get it back. Did I hurt myself on the front of my neck? Shaving, yes. I tend to cut myself there. It's a difficult spot. Peaceful pot. Welcome to the mountainside. Landon asking, who the fuck is Drake and why is he all of Twitter? Never change, Landon. Did I listen to that song you sent? Yes, I did. It was fun. Honestly, the sky looks pretty magical on most days. At least like once or twice. There's usually a few really special moments. I've been doing these live streams, walking around each day, and I keep walking too much. I keep finishing the live stream like having fucking worn my legs out. Walking is not part of the assignment. The point of the live stream is to talk to the chat. So the fact that I keep well, I guess I'm just trying to wear myself out. It's a nice way to exhaust my energy, but I've been going too hard. Landon, Drake has been the #1 best-selling recording musician for like 12 years straight. I think he is responsible for like the most #1 singles possibly ever. You know, he pretty much is only in competition with Michael Jackson as like the best-selling of all time. And like Taylor Swift and Beyonce or something like that. He's at the very least the best-selling rapper. But he's also kind of shit, and also big time a shit person. And so Kendrick Lamar, who has been considered widely the greatest rapper of his generation for the better part of that same decade, is finally going in on him. Net Basis says, oh, we're talking about Aubrey. Yeah, he and the rapper Kendrick Lamar are having a stereotypical rap beef. I would say this goes beyond stereotype. This is the next level of rap beef. There's not a lot of rap beefs where a guy sings about how another guy is a pedophile. Certified lover boy, certified pedophile. Like, that's internet blood sports in my book. That's what I see here. It's internet blood sports on record. Justice with 250 says, favorite Ye album and why? That's a tough choice for me now, because like I said, I haven't been listening to Ye that much lately. So I would suspect it would probably be one of his early albums. When I first got into, so I'll say this of hip-hop as a genre as a whole. You know, I've had hip-hop with me since I was young, but it was never something I started seeking out actively until Kendrick, until Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe. Because, like, I spent my teens mostly listening to, like, prog rock and post-rock and, you know, really washed out and weird shit and avant-garde stuff. And, you know, kind of rediscovered hip-hop as an adult through Kendrick. So at that time, Ye was kind of the guy. Like, you know, Kendrick, when he first started blowing up, it wasn't immediate that everybody was like, this is the greatest rapper of all time. You know, I would say To Pimp a Butterfly started that conversation. And then when he finally got a #1 hit with Humble on Damn, that was when it was like allowed that he could be considered the greatest of all time, because you have to have had at least one #1 hit to really be in that conversation, according to some people. Not according to everybody, but you know, I just think he's an exemplary rapper, song crafter all around. But anyway, that's enough about Kendrick. Talking about Ye, at the time, Ye was the guy who was in the conversation, because he was like 5 or 6 albums deep into classics that were massively influential in all these different ways. But when I was getting into hip hop, I couldn't get into any of it. Like, none of it hit me at all. But I was mostly, like, outside of Kendrick Lamar, I was mostly listening to, like, much more experimental stuff that was more in line with the weird rock music I was already a fan of. So, like, uh, even before Kendrick, like, I was really into Dialect or Dalek. I'm not sure how you're supposed to pronounce it. It's D-A with an, it's not the fucking Doctor Who robot. It's A has an umlaut over it. Dialect, I think he says it one time in a song. This dialect I speak. Anyway, Dialect is one of my favorite rap groups, but I was into them as, like, because of the fact that they were signed to, like, a rock label, and so they were kind of put into the same category as bands like ISIS that I was already listening to, and that's how I got into them. So, like, getting into hip-hop initially, it's like I was listening to Clipping and Death Grips and all this weird experimental shit and Dialect, and then Ye came out with Yeezus, and that was, like, in that direction, but I didn't really like it. Like, it wasn't clicking with me. I kind of was feeling the same way Fantana was, although I did like Black Skinhead. But it was around the time of Yeezus that I finally got big into My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, just because I finally started having, like, relationships and feelings about other people in my relationships that were more relatable to Ye, getting drunk, tearing myself apart, having these big emotional moments. And so, like, I just related to that album really strongly after a certain point. And so that was my entry point into actually being, like, a fan of Ye, was, okay, well, I really like My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. But even then, trying to go back to his older stuff, like, a lot of, what he was doing that I kind of took for granted, like all the stuff with soul samples and stuff like that. I kind of just took for granted that that's what hip hop sounds like, because I grew up with Jay-Z, and Ye did all that, all that sound for him. And, like, I also grew up with the early Ye hits. So, like, when I went back and listened to those albums, it didn't seem as unique or revolutionary to me, because it was like I just took this for granted as what hip hop can sound like. But now that I really have listened to a lot of hip-hop history, I understand how unique Ye's production actually is, how little existed that sounded like it before it, and how much exists that sounds like it after it, And so that gives me a stronger appreciation for his older work, that I can look back on and be like, this is more unique than I really thought it was at the time. But I do think his first 3 albums are all very, like, inconsistent, and I don't mean that in terms of quality as much as vibe. Like, they're all just kind of a collection of a bunch of bangers, but all in very different styles. And so each one it's like kind of hard for me to get into, because you kind of have to get into each and every song, whereas My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy is a concept album. You can get into it holistically. I never got into 808s and Heartbreak. It's just too slow and, like, soft for me, I guess. And then when fucking Life of Pablo came out, I hated it. I shit on it relentlessly, publicly, even though I do think Ultralight Beams is still a classic song. But I ended up really liking Ye when that came out, but that one's kind of lost luster for me. Like, I don't know, the weird production and everything always made it a little bit more difficult than it should have been. Like, Yikes should just hit harder. It shouldn't be a song that you kind of feel like is good in spite of the production. Ghost Town's the best song on the album, but the rest of it doesn't really hold up as much as I would have liked. Jesus is King was fun, but like, half of it is very skippable. And then I didn't really care about Donda 1 or 2 very much. There's not any song on either of those that I was, like, in love with. It all, to me, was just kind of like milquetoast Ye. And I didn't care about Vultures. So I guess my favorite is probably still My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, but I would have to go back and listen to all the old shit again. I never really liked Kids See Ghosts as much as everybody else did. I think it sounds good and all, but I don't know, none of it hit me like that. I did not understand why Fantano thought that was a 10 when he doesn't. I didn't understand what he thought was so different about that from everything else that those two guys have done that he's shit on, you know? It didn't make sense to me. Kid Cudi versus Kanye, who wins? I mean, probably Ye. But I only know like 3 Kid Cudi songs, so it's not fair to ask me which album I'm talking about. MF Doom's beef rap is greater than rap beef. I don't even know that one, actually. I tend to fucking... Spotify just constantly tries to recommend me the same like 5 Doom songs over and over again, and I'm just like, dude, I skip these every time. I would be fine if you tried to play me a new song, but like, why is Rap Snip Knishes always in my fucking shuffle, you know? My DJ thing, I mean. Yeah, he's an amazing producer, and yeah, I mean, he is one of the greatest producers all time, no question about that. But like, I don't know, again, he's not my guy in the way that JPEG Mafia is, you know? Like, and it's not even that JPEG Mafia's got like a huge plethora of songs that I super duper love yet. I think he will get there. He does have a number of them, but his production style, the stuff he's talking about, like, that's when I say that like Ye is not my guy right now. JPEG is my guy. Danny Brown is my guy. You know, those two, that's my team. Fucking, you know, there was a time when in my youth, you know, I was into Run the Jewels, and I still think Run the Jewels is really good. They're not my guys. You know, JPEG and Danny Brown, those are my guys. They get it. You know, those are 2 guys that I don't even need to have a conversation with them, because the internet is a conversation that we're having together in and of itself. Spiritually, we're on a new type wavelength. Me and Danny Brown and JPEG Mafia. They probably don't want to be on the same new type wavelength with me. They probably would reject this notion, maybe. I don't know. Maybe they think I was cool. I have no idea. But whether they like it or not, they're on the same new type wavelength. Drake versus the guy who raps in Devilman Crybaby, who wins? That's fucking funny. Gotta be the guy from Devilman Crybaby. That guy had way more heart in his performance than Drake has ever had. Do I like Mike? I have not really been able to get into Mike, but so like that dude is he's the biggest influence on, I think, everything Earl Sweatshirt has done since some rap songs, and also on my friend Dyron Miller, who I've rapped with. And like, it's taken me a long time even to enjoy stuff that's kind of in his style, but like listening to Mike himself, I always just kind of feel like, oh, this is where this is why everyone's doing that type of rapping, you know? But it doesn't, that rap style doesn't personally speak. It's just very like dreary and dissociated and distant, and just kind of like in your feelings, you know? And I try to avoid that type of music as much as I can. Now, when my cousin died recently, I happened to get that news while I was listening to some rap songs, and then I could not stop listening to some rap songs. So, you know, I got more into it as like, this is an emotional, you know, this is a place to go when you're really going through it, you know. But I'm not usually going through it like that, so, you know, I get how, I totally see the appeal. I just don't personally, I'm not in that headspace enough, you know. Earl Sweatshirt used to be your guy, but now Billy Woods. That's another dude who's just, the headspace is a little too dark for me, you know. And I mean, I'm sitting out here on like a sunny fucking grassy knoll in Virginia Beach. Like, this is, my lifestyle is go outside in a big open place and see the sun and be around people with fucking umbrellas and jeans, you know, hiking. Like, I don't live that kind of tough ass lifestyle in that kind of tough ass place that would have me writing about that kind of tough ass shit, or even listening to stuff about that kind of tough ass shit. I appreciate it, you know, getting the perspective, but It's not really the atmosphere of my area or my attitude as a duty pay type beat. I mean, that is a god tier beat. Sometimes we feel pain, pain, pain. So fucking good. I would have to say my all-time favorite JPEG song is probably still Jesus Forgive Me, I Am a Thought. I've listened to that one hundreds of times, like, so it's all the way in my head, you know. It's one of those that, like, I could probably play the whole song to myself mentally. GT with 5 pounds says, you got me into Quelle Chris, I love his music. That's really fascinating. I assume that happened through a rant, because I'm pretty sure somebody paid me to rant about one of his albums once, but I've never really gotten into Quelle Chris. I think he's good. I think what it is, oh god, I sound like Eric July. It's just a matter of, there are certain patterns that kind of emerge with rappers, with artists in general. Like, it can't be helped that there's just like types of, you know, types of guys, basically. Types of, like, Pokemon. Like, there's different Pokemon types, you know, of rappers. And with, like, Quelle Chris, when I listen to him, I hear, like, oh, abstract type rapper, you know? And it hasn't sunk in with me who he is yet. Like, I see the typing, but I don't know the moves. You know, like, I feel similarly, like, about some of the people who Bus Driver works with. Like, I know Bus Driver, I've listened to a lot of Bus Driver, so I could tell you all about Bus Driver's style and his moves and, like, what is special about Bus Driver. But, like, No Can Do, I've heard him in Bus Driver songs, I've heard them collaborate, but I don't know him at that depth where I could be like, this is what No Can Do is about. To me, he is basically abstract rapper, you know, in the same way that I would call, like, Meryl a water Pokemon. I don't really know any, a water fairy, I guess. I don't know any of Meryl's moves off the top of my head that aren't just generic water fairy moves, you know. So I respect Quelle Chris because I've heard him and I know he's good. I haven't deep dived it, and for me, I'm not. I want to say I'm not the best rap listener. I've gotten exponentially better over time. This is something Riley helped me a lot with, because actually Riley and Bird, both of them are people who hear the lyrics immediately. They're very good at parsing words, and they're listening for the words. They want to hear the words. So both of them, when they listen to a new song, it's like, shut up and listen to the words. Riley will usually run it back to try to hear what they're saying again, because he wants to get every word on the first listen. I and most people I've ever met have not really listened to music that way. Most people never learn the fucking lyrics at all. But I've always been somebody who gets curious. Like, if I hear a song, I like the song, then I start learning the song. You know, it's like a slow unfolding. I mean, it depends on how obvious the lyrics are and how catchy they are. There are some songs I hear twice and now it's stuck in my head for the rest of my life. But, you know, generally, especially if it's complicated like a rap song, it takes me a while to fully process what I'm hearing. And particularly with abstract hip-hop like Quelle Chris, there's a lot going on with the instrumental, there's a lot going on with the concept and theme, and I'm kind of like locking my brain into like the perspective before I can even start to unfold like the actual content of, do I like this, you know? So, anyway, there's another super chat from Gary Always with $5. He says, favorite rappers are Daveed Diggs, Doja Cat, and Endless Jess. Something wrong with me, I think. That is a very interesting combination. Daveed Diggs is my number 2. He cannot be my number 1 because he is not versatile enough in his voice. Just the voice. Daveed Diggs, yo, he's got a very specific register that he's rapping in, and he cannot do any other register for rapping in, so he's always gonna be kind of locked into the same register that he's rapping in when he's rapping in the register like this, you know, like, he always sounds like that. He sounds awesome. He writes unfucking believable lyrics, incredible storytelling. better than anybody else. You know, to me, he's kind of like a replacement Biggie, because I can't get into Biggie. I struggle. I also don't like his voice, which is also very monotonous, but like, oh, I shouldn't say also don't. I just don't. I do like David's voice. It's just very monotonous, but Biggie's voice I'm not as big a fan of. But Biggie was a great storyteller, and he tells his story with like a swagger that he's pretending like he is actually in the story, whereas David is not. He is like a maniacal storyteller. You know, he very pointedly never uses the word I in any of their songs. He's never talking about himself. It's always about a character he's making up. So, you know, and he constantly references Notorious B.I.G. lyrics. So, like, I see him as kind of like picking up the torch of, I'm going to be the storytelling rapper, except my one rule is to differentiate me from Biggie or from anybody else who's done this. I'm not in the stories. You know, there is no I. There's only these people. It's a play that I'm showing you. So I love that about David. And he's got, like, in terms of how many songs a rapper has that I think are like God tier songs, I think he's my second place after Kendrick. It's just a matter of like, Kendrick's songs are God tier while also being something I can listen to in virtually any context. And that's not true for nearly as many Clipping or David Diggs songs. Not even to say that there's not a few. I mean, like, Work Work is always a jam. You put that song on, you're gonna jam, you know. But, you know, a lot of his better work is more on the dark, conceptual, weird side. And Kendrick has those songs too. He's also got the weird, dark, conceptual shit. But he's also got ADHD, you know, like the catchiest fucking sad rap I've ever heard. And then, of course, you also mentioned Doja Cat and Endless Jazz. I've never really listened to much Doja Cat. I like her whole steez. I really liked that one song that was like, I don't know the lyrics, but that song was really heavy on the radio when it came out, and it was good. And obviously Endless Jazz, a huge influence on me as well. Particularly his song, The Coolest Guy, is one of the, like, there's a list of maybe like 50 rap songs / verses that are just completely etched into my consciousness. Like, at any point I could just belt out that whole rap, and The Coolest Guy is one of those, you know. I'm the only male Sailor Scout, a planeteer. Captain Planet, come over here and have a beer, not mine. Get your own bitch, you're a queer bag anyway. Faggot ass fag, just a little gay. Billy Mays, mighty Tate, tie me up for nightly rape, but I blast through the room, kaboom, and I escape. I just silly crop top, bullet, dilly dally, chili, jelly, cast, taste like a bullet. It's a really good one. If anybody wants to super chat me to perform other rap songs, I don't know if I'll know them, but I'm always down to do karaoke. I thought about doing a karaoke stream the other night because I just was doing, actually maybe this was last night. Yeah, I wore myself out doing karaoke last night. I gotta tell you all about this. It was actually, it was heinous. It was hazardous what happened yesterday. I gotta tell you about my fucking weekend. I should have done this earlier. Hopefully Bird's listening to this at a bar somewhere, and he'll be like, yes, vindication time. So, there's a state park here in Virginia called Machicomoco. My dad kept saying, you gotta be loco to go to Machicomoco, and he was right. But we did it anyway, you know, even though we thought it was gonna rain, which luckily it didn't. It did not rain super hard through the night like we thought it would. But we pulled up at Machicomoco at like 7 o'clock, expecting to have a fire and get drunk and high and do a live stream next to a fire all night. And as we're pulling up to the campsite, I'm like, oh, ours is the one that those 2 children are running through right now. And we realize that 20 feet from us, directly, like nothing blocking it from ours, is just a massive family, like 2 families worth of a campsite. Tons of children running around. We were just like, well, we can neither live stream nor listen to WATP in this environment. So we basically just went to bed. And then the next morning we get up And I packed up all our stuff, and we were debating with ourselves whether Bird was trying to decide if he wanted to cook at the campsite or if we wanted to go further into the park and cook something, or if we wanted to just take off. And as we were trying to make up our minds about this, we're standing around our fire pit. It's all that's left is the fire pit, and there's some wood in it. We were considering whether we're going to take this last couple pieces of wood. But the camp host is like an old couple in a golf cart. Have come around the path next to our site, and this old man has gotten off the golf cart holding a shovel, and he just kind of shouts at us like, well, hurry up and take the wood if you're taking it, or something like that. We both kind of looked at him like, what? Like, and Bird said, well, checkout's not for 2.5 hours, right? And the guy's like, yeah, but we clean up the sites when people are leaving. And he's like, well, we're not leaving, we're debating if we're going to cook something. But this guy had just seen that, we had, like, I understand why he thought we were leaving, but what was strange is that he did not ask. He just assumed we were leaving, and then got, like, kind of upset, seemingly, that we had not, picked up our logs and gone. So Bird was like, yeah, we're gonna cook here, and the guy fucks off. But of course, Bird was so fucking pissed off. He was like, I go into nature so I don't have to listen to old white men scream at me. This is exactly the opposite of, like, the camping experience I'm looking for. We've had to deal with children and old white men. This is the worst, So we just kind of fucked off. We checked out the rest of the park and then left. So then we ended up going to some brewery instead. It was very good. I don't remember the name of it, but it was Capstan Bar in Hampton, I think. Great fucking place. So that improved our mood a bit. And then we went to Sly Clyde Cider Works, also in Hampton, and drank more, and that improved our mood even more. And by that point, we were like, we should probably go home before we can't drive. So we go home, and my mom had recently made this limoncello drink that is made with Everclear, and she was trying to get rid of it. So she's like, hey, let's all do shots. 2 shots in a row of this limoncello. So me and Bird, who have stopped just on the cusp of being drunk, drink 2 in a row shots of limoncello and are fucking ass out, wasted. He passed out. I did karaoke for 45 minutes, not live, and then wore myself out too much to go on anymore that night. So that's what I did last night. That was my weekend. Pretty all right. Gary Always with the $2 says, Pussy Gangsters haunts me to this day. I think that's an Endless Jest song, right? Yeah, I don't remember that one. Like, I don't remember how it goes. I remember, like, the thumbnail, but I don't remember actually the song. I remember the Scooby-Doo one. It's like too spooky for me, something like that, where it's like the Scooby-Doo gang investigating an old, well, it's like a parody of the gang, I guess, being bequeathed an old house. Anyways, net basis with $5. Thank you. What are your thoughts of Nelly and Ludacris and the Midwest/Dirty South movement during the early 2000s? All right, that is very much my childhood, and Ludacris, big influence on me. I was definitely a fan as a kid, and this is what I would consider, if we're going to talk about hip-hop eras, I would consider the late 90s, the TRL era, from which we got Eminem, Missy Elliott, Ludacris, lots of people who were R&B singers that worked with rappers like Aaliyah and Ciara, who worked with Missy Elliott, Timbaland, Busta Rhymes, Twista, as like popular feature artists who maybe had a hit or two in this era. And this kind of leads into the bling era and all the like Lil Wayne type shit, the crunk stuff and Lil Jon and all that. Like, to me, this is like a bridge into that, where hip hop really merges with pop and rock to create just like a generic party sound, but like blown up. Because I guess when I listen to older rap, like, hip hop has always been party music. It's always been like block music and shit, and like it's meant to be stuff that is to hype up a crowd, you know, but like the manner of hyping up a crowd and the scale of the crowd and the types of crowds, like it used to be for people who wanted to hear hip hop, and eventually it just became like, well, people are used to hip hop, so you can just use it as an aspect in making a popular song, you know, like it no longer has to be for hip hop fans necessarily. You can make pop songs using hip hop. And I think at the end of the 90s and the early 2000s was when, you know, all those names I just said pioneered that ability. And so like I would say Eminem was more on the rap side of that, but he was very conceptual, where like his songs made it onto the radio because of what he was saying, not just that it was catchy and a good song, but like you know, he was talking about shit that related to all kinds of people, and it felt like watching a TV show, you know, in song form. And the music videos contributed a lot to this too. Whereas like Missy Elliott was just pure dance music. Like a lot of the times lyrics don't make no fucking sense to her songs, but they just go fucking hard as like dance songs. So Ludacris is sort of in between those, and Nelly is sort of in between those, as people who are very much making turn the fuck up party music, but it's also rap. It also has like a bit of a hard edge to it and a bit of a tongue-in-cheek factor as well. Ludacris was way more funny. I mean, Ludacris was not that dissimilar to me from Eminem. They were both doing like comedy concept raps, basically. Honestly, Ludacris is not that different from The Lonely Island. Like, as far as I'm concerned, he is a comedian rapper. Like and I think that style kind of went out. I think like people started regarding that as corny when we got into like people like Lil Wayne, who could be funny while also seeming like really hard and like still seeming really party, you know. And Ludacris went on to be an actor, so he kind of went on to just be a Fast and the Furious guy more than a rapper. But you know, for me as a kid, like Move Bitch, fucking particularly Roll Out, like because the flow in Roll Out is crazy, you know. That car don't come out until next year. Where in the fuck did you get it? That's $40,000 gone. Where in the fuck did you spend it? What in the world is in that room? What you got in that room? You know, it's just the way he fucking hits you with certain words, with the most force and character he possibly can. I always liked that. Nelly was a little too edgy for me as a kid. Like, I still remember, you know, fuck, I can't remember the you know, like I liked the song at the time, but it was really funny growing up and hearing like what the lyrics actually are, you know. I'm going down, down, baby, your street in a Range Rover, street sweeper, baby, cocked, ready to let it go. Like, they muted out street sweeper and I think cocked as well in the radio version. So I always just knew like a, you know, fill in the blanks, kid-friendly version of the Nelly song. And I remember his other songs being like very sexual. She could be 18 with the attitude, 19, gotta start acting real rude. That's a little sus. Nelly's like, as soon as she's 19, she needs to be a total cunt or I am not even fucking with her. Oh wait, this is the same super chat. Yeah, okay, I'm still answering this one. More to the Dirty South. I mean, I remember fucking Grills. That song, I knew every word to Grills the year that Grills came out. Because that was the year. So like after the TRL era was starting to die down, was a period where I just went to like an inner city school and heard on the bus, the radio was always like the hip hop R&B channel. So I ended up learning most of the songs by way of either hearing them on the bus or kids singing them at school. And that was in the Lil Wayne era, because everyone at my school was like huge into Jeezy and Lil Wayne, and that was like too scary for me. It was way too intense. Or like fuck, what's his name? Waka Flocka Flame, you know, was around then. So all that shit was too scary for me at the time. But I was listening to like T-Pain and fucking God, what else was popular then that I liked? Oh yeah, I was talking about Grills. Yeah, I knew every word to Grills. just an ad. The song is just an ad for Grills, which in fairness, I could use. So maybe that's why it stuck with me, as I knew one day I would need those motherfuckers. But if I ever make enough money that I can afford grills, I will go straight to Paul Wall. No questions asked. I'll go right to Texas. I'll go right to Paul Wall, and I'll get my grills from Paul Wall, who I'm sure is probably still selling. I think that's who that was in that song. I don't remember who else is in that. I feel like Too Short might be in that song. I don't know who else is in that song. He's not from the South, I don't think. I could be wrong. I didn't as a kid keep up with like who was from where when I was listening to rap. I know it's usually mentioned in the bars, but like I said, I've only more recently become somebody who can process the lyrics on like a first or second listen to the degree that I can now. Justice 250, favorite Death Grips release. I think it's probably still ex-military, but it's hard to say because they're all good. There's definitely a couple I don't love as much, but like ex-military is just no skips for me. Like every song is good. I'm not saying I always want to hear every song every time I listen to the album, but every song is killer, you know? And Death Grips actually a really interesting example of a band that when I got into them, I didn't even look into the lyrics for like years that I was listening to Death Grips. I just never considered it an important part of the experience. Whereas like Clipping, who I got into probably first around the same time, I was trying to learn all the words to Intro on Mid-City because to me that was like exemplary rapping, you know? Whereas Death Grips was like, just sounds fucking crazy. I love how it sounds. But once I actually read the lyrics, and it was because I did a podcast with Munchie at some point about ex-military, and I don't even think I had told him to read them. I had just like myself thought, I should probably read the lyrics if I'm gonna talk about this in depth. And then I was like, man, the lyrics are so much better than I realized, because you can't really understand what he's saying a lot of the time until you know what he's saying. But once you know what he's saying, you're like, oh shit. Subatomic penetration, rapid fire through your skull. Armed and we're taking it back to the days of trying to lose control. Storming in a blaze of glory, raging through your skull. Oh shit, I'm feeling it. Tachyon. Like, all of the words sound badass, even just spoken normally. So that's why they have so much intensity when he's shouting them. But like, ex-military is also kind of the last one, the only one that feels like a perfect experimental hip-hop album to me. And then everything after that is more conceptual than that. Like, if I guess I would compare it to, so I just put out my latest album, Rogue Alien Pet. And then I followed that up with this Bitches That Wanna Mosh EP and Rescues and Rarities, which is 42 songs that didn't exist on Bandcamp before, from like the last 5 years. So those are my most recent releases. But with Rogue Alien Pet in particular, I really was trying to create like an overall sense of character. Like, this is my sound and this is what I rap about. Like, if I'm producing a self-produced album, so it's like, what do I consider my sound to be? Is like post-grunge, 90s, 2000s rock, post-rock type sound combined with, experimental hip-hop, and also lots of LGBT themes, So that's like, I wanted to create that sort of totalizing character on that album. And then going on to the next album, my next one that I'm working on is more like, it's more conceptual in the sense that I'm trying to make like a technically good rap album. Rogue Alien Pet, it is a technically good rap album, but that's not the goal. It's not the target point. So with ex-military from Death Grips, I feel like they went at it with like, we're gonna make the perfect experimental hip-hop album. This is what Death Grips sounds like, this is the ethos, and we've got it all here. And then from that point forward, every single album was like, now let's do something insane. Now let's do something totally different. Let's do something particular. The Money Store still feels pretty open-ended, but it's where the lyrics really just get totally unhinged. Like, you go from, like, Ex-Military's lyrics are artsy, but they still make sense. On the Money Store, a lot of the times it's straight up just like, what does this mean? But when you get to Hacker, I think that's where it kind of all glues together into, like, you get what the pastiche is, what it's trying to show you, and I do think Hacker is the ultimate Death Grip song. So for me, Ex-Military only slightly edges out the Money Store, and it's only because I think I like every song on Ex-Military, and on the Money Store there's a few that I think are like cool that they're on that album because they make that album have its unique tone, but I don't, I could skip them a lot more of the time. No Love Deep Web has another very different vibe. It's more chilled out, but also intense, more brooding. It's like a deeper, darker, brooding album, like a sitting with your feelings more than like a thrash around and have fun, which is less my speed, so it's less my album, but it still has amazing songs on it. Government Plates is like half God tier and half totally disposable. I've never really listened to Fashion Week extensively. It's fine, it's just instrumentals. Steroids is really cool. It's the hardest one to wrap your head around, but if you just want to hear like if you're coming to Death Grips for madness, if you're like, I want that beat down sound, I just want a wall of drums and screaming, Steroids is the perfect Death Grip song in that sense. It's like 20 minutes. I'm calling it a song. It's a mega mix, but and then Year of the Snitch and Bottomless Pit are both just kind of fun times. Like, I think all the songs on them are good, but they neither are like that rich ultimate feeling of like, these are the best bars I could come up with, nor are they like, this is the most honed conceptual album. It feels more like a collection of like songs that we made that were good and we still want them to come out, stuff that was too weird for the other albums or too normal for the other albums, depending on which of those two you're talking about. So yeah, like, they're all good. All of them are good. But Ex-Military still gets my number one. Could even just be nostalgia, I've been listening to it the longest, besides, I guess, the Money Store. I actually think I heard first. Alright, I exhausted the hell out of that rant subject. And myself, walking on the side of the hill like that. Sounded like a baseball game. Oh no, somebody was doing a trick on a skateboard and they were getting a big pop. People were appreciating their trick, I think. Got you random in YouTube Shorts. It sounds like you're responding. The person I'm responding to in the chat seems to be responding to what I say at the start of this video, which means that they wouldn't hear me responding to them now, unless they listened to the whole 90 minutes leading up to this point. Net Bases with another $5. Thank you very much. What do you consider the most important part of creating a rap song? Do you prioritize lyrics or the production side more? Great question. That is actually super dependent on the project. Lately, the bars. So being a music creator in general has been a weird road for me because, again, I didn't grow up with just hip-hop. I grew up with more rock and metal and that kind of stuff, and also just lots of experimental stuff. So, like, when I write music in my head, just as like experiencing life, feeling inspired, hearing sounds in my head that are original, like, the stuff that I hear comes in different genres that mostly I have no way of replicating. So, like, I hear particularly a lot of like mathcore goes on in my brain, like generic, like gent or mathcore type riffs, and then sometimes more advanced, like orchestral sounding stuff, like a Sufjan Stevens or a Mars Volta song, where there's just like a lot going on, creating like a big pastiche. And I'm like, that's lovely that I can do that in my brain. Wish I knew how to make that into a song, So, like, I think for a long time, I was hung up on like, I wish I could make these inner sounds come out, and it's like torturing me that I can't. And the only ones that I can is anything voice related. I have trained my voice to make all kinds of different noises and sounds. So, you know, I can sing along to lots of different singers. I have a pretty big range, and I can do lots of like instrumentation with my voice. So early on, I was doing lots of a cappella. If you go back to early Trial of the Golden Witch, I mean, the very first release we did was a 3-track a cappella thing with me, Marcus, and Victor. And, you know, just going like, ooh, ooh, chaka, ooh, chaka, ooh. And then, you know, the other guy's going, and someone's saying funny shit over it. Like, that type of just totally freeform a cappella experimentation. But I never knew how to like do recording or editing audio well enough to like make good sounding a cappella. You know, I've even heard that kind of stuff, but been like, I don't really know how they're doing that, you know? So like, being so hung up in my inability to make music defined a lot of my early content, you know, where it's like just desperately trying to make, what can I do? Well, I can make weird experimental noises. Well, I can do a cappella. Well, I can rap, is eventually a conclusion I came to. But I couldn't make beats. I didn't understand how in any kind of complicated way, and I still suck at it. Like, it would take me really dedicating myself to doing nothing but making music for months on end before I think I would break through the frustration I get at, like, I don't know, I don't know music theory that well, so it's hard for me to get open, spacious melodies. I have a tendency to lock into these little like black metal, like, you know, grinding sounds that are dissociative and difficult to listen to, and I don't want that. I don't want that kind of music, you know? So I tend to rely on other people to make beats for me, especially historically. It's only recently that I can produce well enough that I am willing to listen to my own self-produced music. But like, you know, when I started doing raps, it was because Shade, my brother, started making beats. And I mean, I had done some like, you know, weird experimental a cappella stuff on like AC and CC mixtape, but it wasn't until Shade started making beats that we did Bedroom Bedrock. And so in that case, all the songs were pretty much written around the beats. It was like Shade would put something out, and then I would listen to that and write to it. And that's why every song on that album like has a very particular atmosphere, because it's written for the beat. And when I got into, like, I would say the first few albums were all like that, where it's just me and Shade, where it's just me taking his instrumentals and then figuring out what works on this instrumental. So I wasn't even really like trying to write songs apart from that, with two exceptions on that album, those being Get Action and Actualize. Get Action I wrote independently as an attempt to write a song better than Rap God. Like, I wanted to do something that was conceptually the same as Rap God, but didn't suck, because I hate Rap God. I still kind of hate that song. So that was the goal. I think I succeeded. And the instrumental was built around the vocals. I like made Shade, it's not Shade's best instrumental because it's not the most inspired. It's the most like forced, where I literally was like, okay, you have to do this and this and this, and I need these sounds here, you know, like me trying to direct a beat basically. And then Actualize was like a song I just written in my head, like bar for bar over the course of a few hours, and then memorized it, and then, you know, found a beat that I thought worked for it, and then wrapped it on that beat. And so I think that my songs where I write for the music tend to be more coherent, but they don't have the best bars usually. They're usually more vibey. Whereas if I write bars independently and then they tend to be really good, and then I go searching for a beat that works with those bars, I think that's where you get a lot of my best writtens. And so that's where I've been focusing much more lately. Most of my songs are stuff that I have written into my phone, and then I go looking for an instrumental or create an instrumental that works for that song, you know? In the case of Rogue Alien Pet, I made all the instrumentals. So with that one, it was, all of them were pre-written. I, you know, basically built this huge playlist of samples and would listen to that, and when I thought I heard a sample that fit the tone of one of the songs I had written, I then created a beat out of that sample. So gathered other samples that I thought matched it. So like that one probably has the most interconnection between the music and vocals of any album I've done because it was built that way. Whereas the next project I'm doing is me drawing from other people's beats, but it's me. I have a bunch of songs I've written, and I'm basically auditioning beats, like getting people to send me beats until I find the ones that will work for these songs. And I've had a few times where it didn't work. Like I thought it would work, I did a recording, and then I threw it away. But today I actually got a song made that I'm extremely proud of. So whenever By Daybreak drops, look forward to that. I think it's one of my best songs. Do I still not like Dark Souls 2? I've still not given it any more of a shot than they had back then. But you really got to understand that for me, video games are about kinesthetics first and foremost. Like what I care about the most is how it feels to control the character. So for me, Dark Souls 2, like literally tying game feel to a fucking stat, that's enough to ruin the game for me. Like I'm never gonna have fun playing that game because I'm never gonna want to play through the sluggish controls to have to put fucking points into whatever. Maybe if I played a modded version, but I don't know. I still haven't beaten Elden Ring, so I'm in no rush to play Dark Souls 2. Do I have a favorite album out of my own stuff? I mean, right now probably Rogue Alien Pet because it's the most consistent. It's I think all 12 songs are good, and I think at least half of them are great. Particularly, I think The Honey is the strongest track on there. I think that's a pretty unfuckwittable song. Like, I have no real issues with it. Maybe the beat's a little repetitive, I guess, but it's not very long, so it's not a big deal. I really like Most a whole lot. I really like Massive Witch Hat a whole lot. So yeah, like it's got some of my favorite songs I've ever made, and overall holistically is probably my best project. And I got it out to a nice beefy 20 minutes in a mere 12 songs, which my albums tend to be very short. But Gay and Dead I think is very consistent and very good, but there's a lot of songs on there that just kind of feel corny now. They just don't hit the same way. It was always a cringecore album. It's always been silly, like the songs are more conceptually fun and interesting than they are necessarily like great to listen to. But that's where I think Rogue Alien Pet has the leg up, is that I think all of the songs are fun to listen to, even if only briefly. I don't think the production's as good as Gay and Dead though, granted, because it's my production. It's not going to live up to Shade's or Sarah Louise's. What happened to the PCP? That's a whole rant topic. I would need that sweet super chat money to get into a whole what happened to the PCP lecture right here on the spot. Butthole Bedrock. That's recorded. Number one. That's funny. So there's some really weird birds. They are geese. There are geese all the fuck over this park. Actually, I'm seeing crows too, like crows and blackbirds. So maybe that's the blackbirds cawing actually. But there are hella geese all over this fucking park. There might be some seagulls too. I see somebody going, mine. Seagulls are certainly not uncommon here in Oceanside, Virginia Beach. I'm not actually that close to the ocean right now. I'm 10-15 minutes away in town center. Smoke ganja. Damn, I just hardcore smell weed. Oh man, somebody's hitting it somewhere nearby, but I can't see where. I guess I don't want to blow up their spot. I got a vape, so my shit don't got no smell to it, but it's totally legal here, which is fucking phenomenal. It's not for sale recreationally yet, though, in Virginia, which is really shitty. I don't know if there's like any regulations that they're still waiting for. Like, I don't know why there's not recreational sale yet. My mom has a medical card, so I'm able to get that legal weed medically. I could probably get a medical card, but it just kind of sucks that they don't have it. Heidi Knight Gauntlets with $5 says, please explain PCP situation. I want to know so bad. Hey, there you go. Thank you for the $5. See, it's a working economy we've got here on YouTube. Well, I mean, the long and short of it, we did RadCon 4. That was the last time that the PCP was all really together and like friendly. And immediately after RadCon 4, Jesse and I filmed a whole season 3 of The Plebe and the Weeb that ultimately has never seen the light of day because the camera recording was all fucked up and both of our lives just went in totally different directions after that. And like, basically right after all that happened, I started transition. And when I started transition, I became, you know, a lot more conscious about my image on the internet and really didn't want to, like, I was kind of, RadCon 4 was a difficult time for me in a way that was hard to talk about at the time because I knew I was like realizing I needed to transition at the time. And when we had planned RadCon 4, it was like supposed to be this big funny thing that we're like all gonna get into swimsuits and go on the beach and like, you know, pretend to be women basically. And when it got to the point to actually do that, and I was just like totally fat and out of shape and miserable and really didn't want to see myself looking like a just hideous woman, even though that was the joke. So I kind of took it too far. Like I was trying to be so ratchet that it almost wasn't even like registering as, you know, the same joke. Whereas like Nate and Hippo were just like perfectly pulling it off, you know, like just awesome looking drag. And so for, you know, it made me very self-conscious at the time, like, fuck man, like what is this fucking persona and character I'm doing? Like, why am I a gross creature on the internet when I want to be, you know, just like a normal woman? So, you know, I started the transition around then, and I had at RadCon 4 done a lecture on the history of the bronies and my whole involvement in the community. And I had been editing this lecture and I didn't like it very much. Like it was taking a lot of editing to make it watchable. And I think part of that is just because when I recorded it, I was depressed. I was, you know, I had really been racking my brain about what angle I wanted to take with the thing. And it just came off really mean-spirited. Like it ended up being more of a trauma dump about my time in the brony community than like a proper history of it. And as I was editing it, I realized there was all kinds of stuff I had missed. Like I had basically not talked about derpy moves at all, which was like a huge deal with the fandom. So I was like, I'm gonna have to record a whole other segment and edit that in. And then once I was like deeper into transition, after like a couple of months of, you know, having been sitting on this thing, I was like, well, at this stage, what I want to do is just basically re-record the lecture post-transition and either edit the old footage into that, like cut it into one super video, or just redo the fucking thing, you know, because I was like, I just don't like it. So I ended up throwing away this brony lecture, and I still don't really understand why, but this set Ben Saint off in like an unimaginable fashion where he was just incredibly angry at me and began attacking me openly in public all the time over anything and everything. And like, it was weird because the tension built up slowly. And I remember there was a point where, because like, it wasn't like, he wasn't presenting it like he was just mad at me about like one thing. It was like that I'm just terminally wrong. And like, we had this argument about politics where essentially I was trying to prove to him that I don't think we really disagreed that much. And it seemed like that was the conclusion we came to. Like we did this podcast, the last couple of shows we had done was basically us concluding that there doesn't seem to be a reason for us not to be amicable. But when it became clear to Ben that I was not planning to release the brony lecture, he lost any interest in being amicable at all. I don't really know why. I don't know why he wanted it so badly. Like, I don't know if it's just because he was in it and he felt like his time was wasted, or if he felt like it was really good and he just wanted it to exist. I don't really know why. So that part has always confused me, because I've never been so attached to somebody else's content like that, you know? But yeah, like, he started flipping out, and basically one by one, everybody got tired of dealing with Ben and left the PCP. Now, in terms of my relationships with individual members of them beyond the podcast itself, like, Nate and I were doing content for a while, and then he just didn't want to do it with me anymore. He didn't want to be involved with the people I was involving myself with. He kind of saw it as that he started the show with Digibro, and it was his intent to do it with Digibro, and so he wasn't that interested in doing it with Trixie, you know? So that one kind of just... And we were also planning to move into an RV. This didn't really end up happening anyways, but I was planning to travel and basically come back to town to do content, and Nate did not think that was tenable. He might have been right, but in any case, he was just like, this is too much of a hassle, let's not do it anymore. He thought about continuing it with Victor, but Victor was like, he was not going to take time apart from his regular job to watch anime, so that didn't happen. Give and Take continued doing the PCP with Ben for a really long time, and eventually that came to offend me, because Ben had been just so ruthlessly attacking me that I couldn't understand how anybody could side with him. So I ended up really unnecessarily attacking Give and Take on a podcast where I was mostly trying to get to Ben. Pretty much just backfired and made everyone who was in the PCP that had a reason not to like me to really not like me. So that was regrettable. I really have no reason to have a strong beef with Give and Take. But I have not been working with any of these people or anything like that since then. I don't really know what's going on with anybody, you know? I've seen Devu make a couple of comebacks to the internet, but mostly seems to enjoy being more private. I frankly have no idea what's going on with Gibbon or Ben. I know Nate has been dealing with channel closure. Like YouTube's really fucked him over recently. Tom still seems to be doing 3D art. But yeah, I just haven't kept up with anybody since the PCP died, pretty much. Jesse, as far as I know, is in Texas and still doing Patreon content, but I haven't talked to him in at least a year and a half since the whole him and Ben beefing over the Blu-rays of Plebe and the Weeb, which I don't even want to fucking talk about because I don't want to open up any of that drama again. Frankly, I prefer to avoid all of it. I prefer to pretend like my past never happened, and except for when I get paid to talk about it. So that's what happened to the PCP, more or less. Was May the Yoko Ono of the PCP? I don't think so. She never interacted with them that much. I think I was the Yoko Ono of the PCP. No, I think I was saying this earlier, but none of us were really ever as unified as we would have had to be to really make the thing work. The PCP was everybody's second job. It was nobody's first job, you know? If we really wanted to be one of those, like, gangs of people that gets big, like, it's easier for me to make comparisons to hip-hop because I don't follow a lot of, like, YouTube groups or anything like that. But, like, I think about Tyler, the Creator, and Odd Future with Loiter Squad, or, which even itself broke up eventually when they all kind of went their own ways. But, like, the reason they made such a huge splash is that they all worked on one thing, realizing one brand, one idea together. And, like, we would occasionally do stuff like that, but none of us ever wanted to make the group project our main project. And, I'm as to blame for that as anybody else. But I think that's why the PCP could not have longevity or mainstream, well, not just, it didn't have to be mainstream, but more success than it had. I think if we had rallied behind, like, if we had decided maybe Nate was like the star, and then we all just kind of became like Nate's writing and production crew, or like the co-stars of his videos, the way that like Brandon Rogers does, I think that would have been a lot more successful. I think there was a big problem in the fact that I was the most successful, so I was kind of put as like the figurehead of marketing of the group because I'm the person who was known the best, and Jesse was kind of like the figurehead of artistic, you know, integrity, I guess, because we all kind of looked at him as like the guy the guy whose quality of work is why we were all friends, you know. But I don't think either of us was prepared to be the leader of the PCP. I think Nate was, but he wasn't prepared to let other people like make major decisions about his art, you know. He's just way too particular. Well, I guess he could have been that and just directed us all more, but he didn't have plans for a whole group of people, you know. He had his own individual content he was still trying to work through. So, you know, I get it. I think if I were to reimagine the PCP as a successful venture, I would probably put Nate at the center of it, and then just have everybody else be like his crew, you know. But I don't think there's any going back to that. I don't know if anybody else would even be interested in that. Instead, I kind of found myself working with Riley and Mint, and for a while it was a similar situation with them where everybody wanted to put me at the front because I'm the successful one, but I'm not that type of leader, you know. Like, I'm good at doing stuff by myself. I'm not good at leading a group of people. And you know, in our group, Riley always kind of ended up being the leader, but more than that, Mint ended up being the face. Like, we realized, hey, wait, like, she's the cute girl. Like, what if we were all just like writing and producing for the one who's obviously going to be successful, you know? And it's worked out where Mint is now way more successful than I've ever been in terms of like raw monetary gain and view counts, you know. So it remains to be seen, you know, if she'll have the same longevity that I have, but I think that she can. So you know, I guess what I'm saying is, if the PCP had treated Nate the way that me and Riley have treated Mint, we might have had a Mint on our hands before Mint. But there's no out-minting the Mint, truly. Eventually we'll all be sucked into Mint's universe. We'll be considered the salad verse. It's gotten quiet here. There's fewer people than there were before, which is nice. Kind of got to piss. I don't want to take the live stream into the bathroom though, but I also don't want to leave my phone outside the bathroom. I guess I can tuck it away under a tree. I feel like I will be very visibly doing that. Oh, big geese. I'm walking into a field of fucking geese. This mountain is entirely covered in geese shit, like guaranteed. I am currently walking on geese shit because it's everywhere. How did Drake possibly think that song yesterday was a good idea? Dude, I think he just thinks people are like just gonna take him at, like, I think he's too surrounded by yes men, or even just like has paid too much attention to his fans and not to like the greater cultural conversation. Like, Kendrick really set him up when he said, like, spin the story however you want, your fans aren't stupid, they're not slow, you know. Like, he really set Drake up to look like he's trying to make his fans look stupid. Like, he's treating his fans like they're stupid. Like, oh, I fed him that information, and also but the people who gave it to him, they're dumb. Wait, what? Which one? Was this a master plan, or was it a bumbling idiot from your camp? You have to make up your mind. You can't pick both, you know? That's exactly what Kendrick means when he's like, you think your fans are stupid. Got a $5 super chat from Justice. One of the big issues with YouTube is that a lot of solo channels that get big were started by folks who don't have real-world management experience. Yeah, personal, me included. I have no business experience. You know, I dropped out of business classes that I tried to take online once before I had a career on YouTube. I have no real experience even just dealing with other people, you know. It's surreal because I think one of the tough things about evolving as a person is it's very easy to forget what it felt like to be the person you used to be. Like, you know, every time I realize that there's a way I would handle a situation now, like, it's hard for me to imagine how I couldn't have handled that before. Like, as a teenager, I was scared to like go up to like a Taco Bell register and order a meal. And the only thing that broke me of that is that I started going out to eat with my friends who were more afraid than I was. So I had to order for them. And like the experience of thinking that they were being ridiculous is what made me overcome my own being ridiculous, you know? But like, it's hard for me now to imagine being that person anymore. So like, you know, I look back on my career and it's like all the mistakes are so glaringly obvious that it's like, well, now I'd never make those mistakes. But I know there's some other mistakes I'm going to make that I don't know about yet, that I don't even know I am making. You know, I'm sure I'm making mistakes currently that I don't even realize. But, you know, it's just a matter of you keep gaining more perspective and then shifts your whole understanding of everything you've ever done, basically, you know? So, yeah, like in those early days of YouTube, there was no like leading example of a person who was doing everything right that we were all supposed to listen to and like copy what that person was doing, you know? I got treated like I was that person, like I said, by people around me, and I had no qualifications, you know, to be treated that way. And now, I don't know how much I was just disconnected for. I hit the reconnect button. Well, what I was saying is, I guess this must be a bad patch of mountain to be standing on or something for connection. Shit, I kind of lost track of what I was saying. Let me go back and read the super chat again. Oh yeah, about having no real world management experience. Yeah, like I feel like now we can all look at people who have like successful business models and go like, that there sure is something I wish I had realized I should be doing 10 years ago, you know? But there's also lots of like insecurities and stuff wrapped up in it where like, I think with the reason I'm pursuing streams actively right now is that I really do think with my skill set, I am best to be doing live streams and long form content. But for a long time, I was just really insecure about doing live streams. Even still, I talked about this earlier in the stream. I had trouble even getting today's, like mustering up the gumption to do a live stream today, you know? Like, I had been considering doing it earlier in the day, just like in the garage or maybe just walk around the neighborhood. And I was like, I really would rather go to like the park. Maybe I'll wait till I have like a car, because my parents were, Bird was at work with our car. My parents let me use their car, but they were doing something with it. So I was like, you know, I had to wait till the afternoon and just kind of spent some time getting food and milling around and trying to find a spot with no wind and, you know, basically pussyfooting around making this live stream happen. So even still, it takes like a certain level of working up like the willpower to be like, I'm gonna lock myself into talking at a camera for 3 hours and hoping that I make money, you know? But once you are locked in, and especially once you, let me turn this camera around so you can see that I'm standing in this field of geese. I'm scaring the geese. I'm gonna stop scaring the geese. I really gotta go to the bathroom, so I'm going to leave y'all outside the bathroom. I'm gonna put you up like in a tree. I'm gonna leave you in a tree. All right. I'm gonna go to the bathroom. Don't fall. Just just listen to the birds and stuff. How'd you like the birds and stuff? Zip my fly up. I thought I was someone else when I was coming towards the camera. Oh shit, it's getting jacked. I would have had to run quite a distance with my phone. All right. Oh, I'm so glad that public fucking sinks are back. COVID really fucked that up. Come to Brazil? Digi? There is no Digi. This is Trixie. But I will come to Brazil. I'm a really big deal when I come to Brazil. I'm humble, I'm chill. I'm heading to Brazil. Live a rock star life in my house on the hills. Alice Long You Gal. Great song. But yeah, no, I got a lot of fans in Brazil. I've actually been thinking lately I really need to start getting my videos translated into Brazilian Portuguese, because I think I could get a shitload of views just by having, you know, my content exist in Brazilian Portuguese. Japanese would be nice too, but I don't think the Japanese are going to care as much about my anime opinions as Brazilians might. If you do, you could send it to a certain live stream for them to react. Well, if I do, I'm gonna need probably you or Amy to do the translations. So give me a rate, and when I have money one day, I'll hire you to do this. But for now, I cannot afford it. Otherwise, I already would have made the offer. Because I'm sure it cannot be easy. Check out this lake. This is the Mount Trashmore Lake. All the geese hang out. Check out that guy. He's fucking big stepping out there like Mr. Morale. You gotta go to Japan. You can be Flying Colors Foundation, Trixie. What was the deal with those guys? That was such a weird thing. That was such a weird little... I always forget about that, and then someone brings it up, and I'm like, oh yeah, the Flying Colors Foundation. As far as I could tell, they were just scam artists, right? Like, I think that's what it came down to, is like, these guys were trying to run some kind of like crypto scam through anime. I think there was like a crypto... None of this part had ever been mentioned to me. These guys had talked to me about like trying to build like the way they had described it was like their goal was to try to help fans be able to support animators more directly. So they were trying to like get involved in basically just trying to help connect American dollars to Japanese programs that fund animators. Was like what they were basically pitching. But then somehow that ended up turning into like a social media website with a cryptocurrency built into it called like Otaku Coin or something. And then as soon as this like blew up, everybody involved just disappeared, and the words Flying Colors Foundation were just like never uttered again. Very strange. That was a weird time. But those guys gave me $100 just to talk to them once. That was neat. I think basically all I communicated to them was like, Patreon's cool. Should, you know, anime studios should consider Patreon. But, I didn't know the depths of how difficult it truly is to work with production committees when I was making suggestions like that. Oh man, I really just straight walked up the side of the hill. That was a little tougher than I remembered when I did it earlier. Whew. Don't know why I'm wearing myself out. Not the job to walk around Mount Trashmore. The job is to talk to the live stream. Oh, it's going great so far though. We've made $60 in super chats. It's a very nice number. I like seeing numbers that that cost. Like, I like it when I can make as much in a live stream as what it would cost to feed, you know, me and Bird going to like a nice restaurant. Because I know we're going to do that even if we don't make that money, so it's good to know that the money's being put back somehow. Look at this glorious fucking place. Pretty much the park I grew up with. This is my first impression of a park. It wasn't like this when I was growing up though. I mean, when I was a little kid, that whole mountain didn't even exist. So that was probably put in when I was a teenager. The park was completely made out of the playground. I mean, it was completely made out of wood. It was way more elaborate and way cooler. Now it's a pretty generic, you know, like plastic and metal thing. I'm talking about it like I'm showing it to you, but there, that's what I'm talking about. There wasn't a skate park here until maybe 2010, so it's evolved a lot over my life. What happened to the lady on a cart you met before your Anime Expo panel? Did she drive into the sunset? I don't remember this at all. I don't remember what story you're talking about. Lady on a cart that I met before an Anime Expo panel. Yeah, I don't remember. If I told that story at the panel, I have not watched those videos back ever since first releasing them, so I have no idea what I talked about and what happened. It's always interesting to me what stuff people consider like revisitable. When I was talking before about how I had an era where I kind of fucked up by like thinking I had to make my content better, a big part of it was that I kept visiting people's houses and like wanting to show them some of my stuff, or like, you know, introduce my stuff to new people who were just, you know, meeting me in real life. And like, most of my content was shit that like I just wouldn't put on, you know, like it's not like fun. It's stuff you really watch by yourself, like, you know, because you care about the subject matter. And I got kind of insecure about that because it felt like all the videos I enjoyed showing people were like weird, experimental, conceptual comedy stuff that I had done either, you know, ages ago, or I only did it like every 6 months. And I was like, well, why isn't more of my content stuff that is like rewatchable? Why isn't more of it stuff that you can, you know, return to again and again? And in retrospect, I don't think that's necessarily the point. I don't think all content has to be like that. You know, I tend to hold up that kind of stuff because I find I guess I think like if I keep coming back to something, that means it's like especially good, and if something is somewhat disposable, then it's not as much so. But there's plenty of stuff that I just got the whole like, especially with analysis videos, like you get the whole experience the first time. Like your brain is just different after you listen to it, you know. Like I'm thinking right now about Hip Hop DX videos. Those are some of my favorite. Well, I shouldn't say that. The Company Man, Justin Hunt. He used to work for Hip Hop DX, but like any of that dude's videos are like, I didn't have to watch them twice. I don't go back to them. I remember what he said, you know. So like, it doesn't matter that the video's not rewatchable. Like it's permanently in my head that I got that information. I think I can regard my content more that way now. Even a video like this, like it's not very directed. It's not something I really see people being like, I gotta revisit that one. Maybe like a timestamp, maybe there's like a segment or something I said that you'll want to revisit in the thing. But I don't see this being something you sit down and watch 2 or 3 times. Unless, but at the same time, what got me onto that subject, everybody's got one video that's like one I would never rewatch, but they've seen it like 100 times, you know. And I know I've got some of them too. Fucking, you know, Barry Kramer from Game Grumps, how Alex Kramer, his brother, makes him a birthday song every year. And a lot of them are good, but the very first one, just so classic. I've listened to it so many times. I know I'm not the only one, but I know I'm one of the only few. All right. I assume that I've bankrupted everybody who's gonna give me super chats today. So this live stream might have to wrap up soon, as I get tired of wandering this mountainside in the waning sun and straining to stare at the barely readable text on this screen. Really appreciate everyone giving me the pony award, but the real award is having celery. That's another good example of a video I've watched a lot more than the average person. It's called The Nutritious Adventures of Celery Jack. That's the one. There's lines from that are just like always in my head. There's some certain videos, you know, I'm sure you've all got a bunch of them. Like Fingers Around My Dick. Fucking, I've watched 7 billion times. I never forgot the stench. The same stench of rotting fingers around my dick that came out of your mouth, and you got your mouth around my dick. That's some mouth on you. I don't know about you, Hokushin, but nothing gets on my nerves more than fingers around my dick. Now stand your ground. Hey, some super chats are here. Justice with $10. Thank you so much. I don't know what that big 20 is there, but that looks cool. Do you have any tips for up-and-coming YouTubers that make long-form analysis videos in the current YouTube environment? I'm feeling confident after some early successes and want to double down on it. I would say really go all the fuck in on your concept. So like a big mistake I think I made early in my career, maybe it's not a mistake, maybe this is just the way I am. I put out a lot of content. I do live streams, I overexhaust, I put out too much of myself. When you're making super long form videos, you want to make it feel like you can only do this every 6 months, you know? Even if it only takes you a month, just wait an extra month before you put it out. Just don't make the expectation that you're going to do it as fast as possible every time, you know? Like, just because you can do a big video in a month, don't convince people that you're always going to put out a big video in a month. That's a mistake. But when you make a video, it needs to be an event. It needs to be something people cannot miss. If Noah Caldwell-Gervais makes a video about a game series that you care about, you have to watch that video if you care about long-form analysis, because you know it's going to be the one. He's going to go into every detail. It's going to be the best analysis of that game. So like, you got to go into it like, each of my videos is an event. It's something that I expect people to set aside time for, that they're really going to care about. They have to care about me. They have to care about what I care about. I'm going to make them care about what I care about. I think good storytelling is a huge part of selling that silence. Like, people to look at for great examples: Super Eye Patch Wolf and Hazel, two people who are in the same category of videos that I do, but that I wish I had done what they do. Like, I wish I had done that style, which is basically they go away for a couple of months and then they tell you a story that seems to be the story of what they were doing in those 2 months. It's not. They were doing more. They were doing other things. They have lives, but the narrative of the video is like, last time you saw me, I was doing this. Here's what I've been up to since then. And then you take them through the story, and like, they both do it to different degrees. Like, Hazel is literally like taking you through every step of the process of how the video was made. The videos are usually structured where it's like you are taking this journey with her through the thing that happened. Super Eye Patch Wolf is more like, all of this happened and now I'm going to tell it to you in a story, but he's deliberately breaking sequence for dramatic effect because there's just like there's more of a concept, more conceptual writing in his videos. So those are both people who every project, they put a lot of work into it. It has a very specific message and personality and story, and you feel like you're continuing this adventure with them. And the question of where have you been is always answered by the video, even if it's not really the total answer, obviously. So that's my basic advice. I got to answer these other super chats, especially from John Cena with $10, who says, I'm a Christian and I like your channel. Conservative so-called Christians want the people they don't like to go to hell, which is a subversion of God's will. God made you trans, and I'm not kidding. Yeah, I mean, I think if you believe in God, you can't go saying that he's contradicting himself. Like, I don't believe in the Christian conception of God. I do believe that all things are innately connected. Cells and particles, atoms, quarks, whatever, they're all on the move. Everything is always moving, shifting through each other. So the stuff that makes up you eventually makes up something else, and you're made up of something that came from somewhere else. And so I do kind of view the universe as like a superorganism, and in that sense I would consider that the closest thing to a God that I believe in. So I think that if you believe in anything like that, you believe that everything affects everything else. So to me, if everything affects everything else, then there's kind of an inevitability to everything that happens. Like, I'm gonna take a step with my left foot because I just took a step with my right foot. I could decide to take a step with my left foot twice, but it's like a decision I have to make. And there's I guess a potential butterfly effect, but the only reason I made the decision is that I had made the decision to talk about making the decision to step. You know what I mean? Like, there's a sense of fatality and inevitability to all things. And I think that is what most people regard as God. Like, God is the decision maker of that fatality. God is the one who is deciding the determinism. And if you believe that, then everything that's happening is happening exactly as God ordains it. Like, you can't believe in a fatalistic universe, but also that people are making decisions that are subversive of God's will. That just doesn't track. You can't have both. So, yeah, I agree with your take. All right, Rocky the Robot Guy with Sec 50, which I think are shekels. Tomorrow I'll be getting confirmation of whether or not I get accepted to my dream concept art school or not. Wish me good luck. Hey, good luck. Art schools seem wild. I technically went to an art college, but it was just the art branch of my community college. Here in Virginia Beach, we have Tidewater Community College. So, actually, it's in Portsmouth, which is a neighboring town. They have the art building, which is just like this little building in historic downtown. And I got some good experiences out of that. I would say that my photography teacher definitely taught me enough of the basics to make me a competent photographer. My typography teacher was a total bitch, but it was still an interesting class. Or no, it wasn't my typography teacher was fine. It was my fucking graphic design teacher who was a total bitch. I did not enjoy that class as much. But I did learn how to use Adobe programs on a basic level, so I guess I got something out of that. Ultimately, I did not get a degree. But I've been to SCAD because that was where Nino had gone to school in Atlanta. And that was a wild place because he's like taking me around the building and everything's very open plan. Like there's no, not that there's no walls, but like, you know, there's no doors. It's just like open walls and all kinds of weird furniture and just art pieces everywhere, every fucking wall. Some kind of weird design, some kind of art piece. So it definitely felt like this weird, creative environment. But you know, we just kind of blitzed around it real quick. And then I know, I'm pretty sure Munchie and Cassie, I don't know if they're both in college, but last I had talked to them, they were going to art school in Boston. And that seemed to be something that they liked. So art school seems like kind of cool. I don't know. I'm very anti-school in general, so I'm trying to be positive because you gave me money. Also, I assume you're in a different country based on the money you gave me, so I don't know how your art schools are compared to American ones, or your school system for that matter. Personally, I have a big vendetta against the whole American school system, the whole college system. I think there's a lot of better ways you should spend your youth, but again, art school is a little bit different. Everyone I've known who's gone to an art or like a serious art or animation school, because you meet other artists and other people, like you'll actually be able to make connections with people who know what they're doing, assuming you have like a specific field and you're not just like fucking around or whatever. Yo, I'm off and home. Do you want me to come meet you? Sure, if you want to, bird. Or I could come home. I'm kind of done live streaming, so if you want to come out here because you want to hang out, then do that. But otherwise, I'll just end the stream and come home. Because I've still got mom and dad's car, so I probably should bring that home. I don't think they're going anywhere today, though. Yeah, bird, just give me the word. If you want to come hang out, I'll keep the stream going. But if not, I'll wrap it up. So if you do want to come out here, I'll just pop a seat in one of these booths and wait for you to show up. We're only like 15 minutes away, I think, from the house. Something like that. Technically in a different city. For some reason I've got Bleed It by Blueface in my head. Pull up on your block and bleed it, slide. Don't know how that happened. I think maybe because that new Kendrick Lamar song kind of sounds a little bit like Bleed It, actually. That's probably what it is. Just that very, very LA sound. How does the geese shit smell? It doesn't really. It mostly just smells like wind and grass here. Didn't get a response from Bird about whether he's planning to come down or not. I guess he asked me, and I kind of just passed the ball back. But the truth is, I'm undecided. I do think it might be a little... Oh, my hair is crazy, crazy. Gundam. Gundamu, Gundamu, Gundamu. Have I talked to YMS lately? No, I've never really talked to YMS. Not like in a personal fashion. Justice says, if my channel ever gets big enough to make a Patreon, I'm definitely going to do a rant format for backers like you did. That was great stuff. Just be careful, because it can get out of control if you actually get enough rant requests. Because, well, the key really is to just not offer to watch anything. That was my big mistake, was that I kept... Initially, I had offered, like, I would watch up to 30 minutes of something, and then I like increased the amount where it was like, if you pay more, you can ask for something longer. Setting aside time to consume stuff I did not innately want to consume was by far the hardest thing about doing that. But yeah, there was a period at the end where I think I canceled that and just was like, I'll do rant. Well, I guess now currently the stance is I'll rant about whatever, but I ain't watching shit, because it's just, especially if you don't end up with something to say about it, like, you know, how am I going to guarantee that I will have like anything to say about this thing you want me to talk about? Shipping Econ and Destiny. A match made in heaven. I haven't heard from Econ in a long while.
Yeah, same
I
here.
don't know what he's up to.
These are like, they're not old, but like, I've ran into so much in them. Makes what it is.
Wish I could remember more of the words to that song. Real dog hours. Econ was awesome and so chill. Chill is the last word I would use to describe Econ. He's maybe the most high-strung person I could think of. But he can be fun to hang out with. I haven't seen him in a long time though. The last time I saw him, he was supposed to be going to China, and then COVID happened, and so he couldn't. And I don't know if he ever ended up going or what. Pretty sure most of his stuff is still in Victor's attic.
Rhea had something, it was Vaseline, but it tastes like cherry. You know, Rhea. Well, come on, Chloe. It was definitely her crib, and that little rat, that's why I seen her pull it. But I didn't move. I gotta stand up here in the shade while wait till y'all come up.
What country is this? America. The US of A. Bird is not here. I don't know where Bird is. He said, should I come down there? And I said, up to you. And then he said, Gundam. Which means I am absolutely trapped here, because now, if I leave, I don't know if he's on his way. So I've just got to stick it out until I learn the truth. There's so many geese over here. I'm thinking Bird's probably going to want to come down here because he's going to want to see all these geese. That, or the exact opposite. because I know he thinks geese are scary. But look at the little baby geese. Little babies. Cute little fuzzy baby geese. What's up, y'all? How you doing? How's it going? A bird just landed next to me, but not bird. Just a bird. What a guy. I'm gonna text Bird and ask him if he's coming. Alright, I sent him a text. Find out the truth. The text lagged you. Yeah, that happens. No, the video didn't die. It's just that YouTube is silly. I guess I just hadn't responded to Bird fast enough for him to see that I told him he could come down. So he was like, no, I'm not on my way. So I'm headed out. This is gonna be our last moments, so if anybody wants to shoot me any super chat rant requests, I think I can get through one before I get back to the car, or I could finish it in the car, I guess it doesn't matter. But I will stop the stream when I start driving, because it's a dangerous time of day to try and drive and stream at the same time. We've had a great stream. I went for 2.5 hours. We've got 85 bucks in super chats. That's a comfy number. I like it. Thanks for spending time with me. You know, Bird was stuck in traffic, so, you know, I would have just been sitting at home waiting. Instead, I sat at the park waiting and talking to people on the internet, so I had a nice time. I haven't been actually, I haven't walked around Mount Trashmore, I don't think, since moving back here. It feels so natural. It hasn't really changed much since the last time I saw it. I don't know if this, I think the volleyball court was probably there, but a lot of this stuff was new when I was here 2 years ago. But I don't think they've added any extra shit. Thanks for the stream. It was chill as always. No problem. That's what I do. I chill. I max, relax. I get philosophical, existential, deep into the back of the brain, where the tingly sensations strain. The name of my game is Pain Relief through Keef and Street Wisdom. I look like a well-lived auntie. Take that as a compliment, I guess. I do know a lot of well-lived aunties, so inevitably I would take influence, I guess.
You don't want to wait. I can tell it stop. Oh no.
I swear that was a hot chick with 2 babies by a stroller taking Instagram photos, trying to get her kids to hold on while she does a sexy pose. Probably a model, but still funny to see. Here comes big geese energy. I don't think they like him getting close. Alright, that's a pleasant place to leave this off. See ya, everybody.